Hi everyone. Today I have with me Vivek Bengani, who is the CEO of CAMS Insurance Repository, along with Amandeep Singh, who heads the products and services over here. And we are going to have an interesting chat today on the digital processes, design part, etc. So thank you, Mr. Vivek and Aman.
Thanks, Ganesh.
And I'm sure we'll have a great discussion and a lot of knowledge burning over here. Okay. So to start with, I would like to ask you a very simple question. You have been on the sales side, on the other side of insurance. Now you're on the service side at an industry level. So from this point of view, I'd like to ask you, where do you see our industry moving? Okay, from the process point of view, design point of view, the way it is structured, and the digital point of view. Are we digitally ready and geared, or do you see some gaps?
Ganesh, let me give you a very simple understanding of this, that having been part of the insurance industry for about 14 years, having done products, operations and sales, one of the things I realized and while I was running agency was that the way the industry is operating today, the systems and processes, they were probably meant for a different era of the of the consumer. Today the consumer era is very different. Okay. And therefore, there is a fundamental need for all of us in insurance industry to go back and re-understand what the customer wants. And that is, I think, the problem that we are facing today. That unless and until we go and re-understand our customers, the next phase of growth that we are talking about, 2047, we want to hit 100% coverage of insurance. I think those kind of things will come when we actually fundamentally rethink our products and services. And even before this discussion, we have had multiple discussions before also. The new set of things that have to be done, they cannot be done unless somebody is going to rethink it using digital technology. That's why I think that is where we are today in one common sense.
Okay, so if I were to get you right, you're saying digital is not a channel. Digital itself is the business.
Yes, I think for what you are saying, fundamentally we believe that you have to use digital as the resource to reinvent your business. Just think about it as one example. If you were making, there are lots of businesses today which run simply because you have electricity available. You could not have run those businesses if there was no electricity available, right? And they are true, I would say, automated businesses that are running in that sense. And if you are not going to reconfigure our industry in insurance basis this technology, I don't think we can really go and do that. Today, fundamentally what is happening is people have consumed digital as a channel. They have not consumed digital as a resource which has to allow them to...
So what happens if the electricity power goes down? There's a power outage, Wi-Fi ban, internet ban. So are you trying to talk on those lines?
Yes, the digital has to be utility. So fundamentally, so you are having a digital native business. That is what we are talking about. Unless and until insurance becomes a digital native business, it cannot survive in the ecosystem of digital that we are currently living in. And every new generation that we have after us who have come, they are basically digital natives. They understand the world through a digital lens. Now that lens is a very different kind of a lens because it is naturally powered by the digital ecosystem itself, and they want the luxuries of life, or I would say luxury. For us they are luxuries, for them they are necessities. The necessities of life start with digital. Right.
Roti, kapda, makan and digital.
Exactly. So that is where the fundamental shift is, and right now I think insurance industry doesn't seem to be going that way. In a proper, I mean, it is trying to, definitely. It's not that it's not. Our experiences with the insurers have been like that. They want to. The thing is that it's a very different kind of a rooted business, because it's like someone who is digging up a well. It doesn't matter if he has electricity or not. He will use a rope or he will use a pump for the well. That doesn't matter. Well will give you water. So it's like that. So until unless we understand the business in the initial.
And if you look at it, actually it is not just in India. The global scenario in case of insurance is also not very different from what is happening in India. If you look at it, whether you look at Australia, whether you look at US, whether you look at Europe, all the places insurance as a business has not been able to grow simply because of the reason that they have not been able to invent themselves into a new way of doing things in them. So if you look at particularly on the life insurance side, the main proposition that life insurers always had was saving for long term. That saving for long term has actually moved to the rightful place of pension, and that is why insurance space has got vacated. Whether you look at UK, whether you look at Australia, or whether you look at US, all the three markets where accumulation of money was supposed to be done for retirement purpose, it has actually moved to either asset management or to pensions. And the genuine business of insurance, life insurance, is the only thing which is doing anything. However, those markets have been smart on one of the things, which is that when it comes to non-life products, they have actually been innovating and covering a much larger area of risk than what we have been able to do.
Don't you think India is also working on the non-life side better?
Very good. I agree with you on that non-life insurers have been actually far more open in terms of figuring out and testing out things on what they can do. And see, all the new products that they are trying to create are fundamentally digital products that they are trying to create. We were recently talking to some of the insurers and we got to understand that this product which came in the market about 4-5 years back, the usage-based, mileage-based product, it hasn't worked. The take-up of that product is not very nice. It has, a few insurers have introduced. I think some other insurers also have it on the shelf, but it is not selling. Now, it's a digital product. You cannot deliver it without digital technology, but it is not working. But if you look at it from a consumer point of view, it's the most suitable product to have, right?
Could it be the mindset of Indians?
It has nothing to do with the mindset of Indians. Indians are probably the most sharpest minds. When they see value, they might like buy it. They are very
value बढ़ जाता ना, for the kit they are charging. From the kit which is coming.
Absolutely, you hit the point on the nail. That the issue is that it is not just about the kit. It is actually about fundamentally who owns the data.
Yes.
If you are going to keep changing that kit because the data keeps changing with the
automobile
insurer,
sector,
there will be a problem. But if you were to disassociate the data and let that data remain with the consumer, but consume this to give insurance separately, it will work. Which is exactly what our business model is. Because we believe insurance repository's job is to actually create that common repository for the customer's data, which insurers should be able to use very simply to continue to deliver products and services, continue to deliver products.
Great. Okay. So, Vivek, you spoke about your role of IR.
Yes.
So that brings to me to the second question. Like, what do you think will the role of IRs and AAs be in the insurance industry? Will it play a significant role? Do you think they are going to just complement to it or supplement to it?
In our view, what we have thought about, Ganesh, is that first you have to understand what is the value proposition of an IR. Why should an IR exist? By the way, it's the only regulatory innovation perhaps in the entire global world of insurance that has happened in the last 10-15 years. We have not come across. I have worked in the European markets, I have worked in Asian markets, I have seen all of these markets. I have not seen a single regulator think of a concept like this where they have been foresighted in saying what is the problem that they are trying to solve. So you have to fundamentally ask a question, why is it that there is a need of having an IR? Okay? If you fundamentally answer that question, then you realize that what is being done is actually going to be that this becomes a very critical, I would not say the central role, but from a customer's point of view, it becomes a central role. For the insurers, it becomes a critical part to partner and make sure that this works. Now, question number one, why is IR created? Simple. IR was created with a thought process that we should help the customer be able to go ahead and maximize the value of his insurance portfolio in the most convenient manner. Simple. This was one line, that was the thought process in there. अगर उसकी पॉलिसीज 50 जगह पे पड़ी हैं और उसको जगह जगह जाके लाइन में लगना पड़ रहा है क्लेम लेने के लिए, तो उसकी लाइफ बर्बाद है. तब तो फिर हमारा जो इंश्योरेंस का सेफ्टी नेट है वो काम नहीं करता. अगर ये सेफ्टी नेट काम करना चाहिए तो इसको सबसे पहले एक जगह कंसोलिडेट कर दो और सेकंड चीज जो है इस पर्टिकुलर चीज को डिजिटाइज कर दो. डिजिटाइज करने से ही आप भी काम कर सकते हैं, अदरवाइज आप नहीं कर सकते. दिस वाज द फंडामेंटल स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट ऑफ दिस.
On the mutual fund side, if you look, we have this similar one, right? So, but then I have a problem over there also. मेरे चार म्यूचुअल फंड्स चार अलग अलग जगह पर है, ओके, एंड आई ऑल्सो डू नॉट नो, जैसे कि गो टू कैंप्स, गो टू दिस, गो टू दैट, इसका NSDL का पासवर्ड ये है, then I remember I called up one of the securities guy, said sir your demat is with this particular repository. Come on, it is not, मैंने थोड़ी डाला था. The application form depends on which mutual fund is tied up with whom. Same with the insurer, which insurer ties up with which repository.
I think this is better in this case. So what
Insurance
has
company
happened is
is
IR is actually customer centric. So in the depositories and in the mutual fund business, it is the mutual fund specific.
Does the customer understand?
Oh, no,
Application form he fills
So
out.
I think
So one advantage that is there is, and again, I think the regulator was foresighted. He said, I want one EIA across the industry.
Correct.
In case of a mutual fund, you can have multiple folios. Also, you can have multiple depository accounts, because the purpose there is transaction and not consolidation.
Right.
See, the purposes are very different. Right? The purpose is very different. It was actually transactions had to be digitized in there, and here the purpose was benefits had to be digitized in here. These are two different things. That is why regulator said, आप EIA बनाइए और एक ही EIA रखेंगे आप पूरी इंडस्ट्री के अंदर. आप इंश्योरेंस के सारे बेनिफिट्स वहां पर इकट्ठे कर दीजिए. Now you don't know whether your account got opened with NSDL or with CAMS or with Carby, anyone. You don't know that. But the day you know that, your life is sorted. And if you want to change also, it's a flick of a button. You can change it to anyone you want to without doing anything at all. It doesn't matter because consolidation has already happened. Whether you are with NSDL or CDSL or Carby or CAMS, it doesn't matter. You can flick of a button, change it. Number one. There is a second thing which I blame IRs themselves. Because IRs initially understood their business as digitization of paper policies. Because the only model available to them was the dematerialization of this thing. Correct? वो उन्होंने उसी मॉडल को फॉलो किया और उसको देख के उन्होंने बोला हमको ये कर लेना चाहिए यहाँ पर. And which is why all the IRs kept waiting for the regulator to make it mandatory. Okay? Which is not required in this case.
Yeah.
We believe that the fundamental role of IR is not just keeping a photocopy of the policy. Na? The fundamental role of the IR is to actually help the benefit realization process. उसमें आप काम शुरू करेंगे और कस्टमर को अगर कन्वीनियंस और बेनिफिट मिलेगा तो अपने आप ही सबका काम होगा. और इसको करने से एक्चुअली इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज को बहुत फायदा है, बिकॉज उनका पर ट्रांजैक्शन कॉस्ट ट्रिमेंडसली रिड्यूस हो जाता है, बिकॉज एंड दे बेनिफिट फ्रॉम सिंडिकेशन ऑफ दिस बेनिफिट्स. बट नो IR up till now started working on it. We have over the last 2 years thought about it and we have started working on it. It's a long road. I don't see that we've just started, but I think we are trying to fundamentally understand the proposition correctly and do that. So I think that's the reason we believe here it's a better story.
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but then what do you think are the challenges? Because I have seen the account aggregators and the IRs, they are trying their best. I have spoken to the CEOs of most of them. कहीं आगे नहीं बढ़ रहा. Somewhere it is getting stalled. Maybe at the insurers end, maybe at the IRs and AAs end, or the processes and documentation कहीं रुक रहा है.
It's a business piece, right? So which is the fundamental, I would say roadblock actually. As long as the business doesn't see the need of it, it won't do anything about it. That's how it works. If it's not broken, don't fix it. It's like that kind of a thing. So it's not broken yet. I mean, it's broken, but they have not realized it. See, if you think that the whole system will become customer centric, overnight, it's not going to be happening. Simply because currently the business is sales specific, right? So it's a distribution centric kind of a business, because you have to sell, and that is where the whole energy of the company as an insurance company is going. Because you need to distribute as much as possible, and you see all the innovations are also happening in that area. Distribution.
99% of the insurtechs are coming in the space of
distribution, right?
Distribution.
You talk to anyone. We have been talking to multiple of them. They're all distribution.
In fact,
ऐसा बेच देंगे, वैसा कर देंगे.
My question to all the CEOs of the insurance companies, even for this book when I do, so there's one simple question I ask them. Do you think there is a different process for digitization for onboarding and distribution, different process for servicing and customer related, and different digital process for claims settlement?
And what's the answer?
And digitization for risk management. That's all. Like वो parallel train चलता है वहाँ पर risk management में. So this is my question generally. Answers are varied, beliefs are varied. Probably it starts from all and then ends at one, or it starts at one and ends at all. There are challenges, but I think unfortunately even the service providers, as you said, the insurtechs, maybe the AAs and the IRs are also trying to talk on those lines because it's an easy entry point, because acceptability easy हो जाता है वहाँ.
So हमने क्या किया? And you're right in that sense. Like, you just asked this question saying, are IRs and AAs able to make an entry into it? Are they able to make a dent into it? Are they able to progress in it? So I will answer first for IRs and then try and give you a view on AA also, because AA का जो evolution है वो थोड़ा सा different है और वो हमारा direct line of business नहीं है, मेरा नहीं है, but obviously CAMS is very active in it. So I'll very quickly give you this part that see, the last 2 years we have been going and talking to practically all insurance companies. What is the first realization we had? That the regulator wants processes to be simplified, they want it to be standardized and all of that. But if you look at the technical maturity, technology maturity of every insurer is very different. Absolutely. I'll give you one simple example. We went and said to a insurance company, life insurance, we want to digitize policy loans. Done. It is possible. We have every API available. Let's do it. And we started working with them. We completed the sandbox and they were done. हो गया, बन गया. अब हम चालू कर सकते हैं. सेकेंड इंश्योरेंस कंपनी के पास जाते हैं तो वो बोलता है कि नहीं, मेरे पास नहीं है, मेरे को 7 दिन लगता है सरेंडर वैल्यू कैलकुलेट करने में. तीसरे के पास जाते हैं तो उसको 15 दिन लगता है ये कैलकुलेट करने में. नाउ एज अ कंज्यूमर, हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू गो अहेड एंड डील विद दिस? There has to be a bridge between this technology maturity that has to happen and the customer's ability to get this benefit.
Maybe middleware is a good solution.
Correct. That is exactly what we think that IRs have a role to play in creating that middleware, because customer के benefits यहाँ aggregated है और यहाँ इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज है. अब मैं सब इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज को जाके बोलूँ आप पहले अपना टेक्नोलॉजी अपग्रेड करिए, 3 साल उसमें लगाइए, फिर बन जाएगा, उसके बाद आप मेरे पास लेके आइए और उसके बाद में मैं सिस्टम चालू करूंगा. Why will the customer wait? So what we are doing is fundamentally trying to bridge this. You work with your 7-day process, you work with your 5-day process, you work with your 15-day process, and you work with your 24-hour process. We will create a fundamental journey which allows you to actually manage this piece. We are going to create adapters which allow you to do that, and as you upgrade yourself to the 1-day journey, it's very easy for me to do that. So that's one step that we had to take in doing this, and there are actually immense number of things like that. I can give you multiple examples like that.
But don't you think 3 days, 1 day, 7 day, 15 days, it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a TAT. So that process can anyway be managed. The question is, movement नहीं हो रहा कहीं पे.
इसका एक बड़ा interesting. So why we are doing this? See, whatever we are doing, the middleware part, we have a slightly different strategy and thought on that. We think that middleware is actually a stopgap arrangement, because the moment this technology question becomes a sales question, it will get solved quickly. And how it is going to become very easy. The moment everybody is aggregated on one platform and they say कि अच्छा मेरा टैट 7 दिन का है, उनका 15 है और ये वाला तो 1 सेकंड में कर देता है, मुझे भी करना है. क्यों? क्योंकि मैं लोन ज़्यादा दे सकता हूँ. See, I changed the question fundamentally, right? So we are not solving it through technology. We are solving it by changing the whole ecosystem. Problem statement ही change कर दिया ना. मैंने जब तक मेरे को पता है कि ये इंडस्ट्री जो है सेल से चलती है, तो मैं इसको जब तक क्वेश्चन को मैं सेल में कन्वर्ट नहीं करूंगा वो सॉल्व नहीं होगा. कर दिया ना मैंने, जैसे ही किया वो सॉल्व हो जाएगा. अब हो भी रहा है. एंड सी the point of digital is to create such more points where the relevance of the digital space and the ecosystem become evident, and they say अच्छा यार ये तो वो ऐसा कर रहा है, मैं ऐसा कर रहा हूँ, मैं पीछे छूट जाऊंगा, मुझे चाहिए. Right, the need, so the business need is very important to convert, and that is where the mehnat is.
Need is FOMO, according to
exactly. Oh yeah. Oh, the whole thing is like that.
In fact, the first problem that we have picked, and we did our research on it, and we published our report on that, was a very simple question. And I'll give you this thing. See, technology solved this in one particular instance, not everywhere, but in one particular instance, technology solved the problem of accessibility. Technology has also solved the problem of affordability. But still the product is not selling. Look at an example. Practically, today, if you go to IRCTC and we are selling insurance there, you get personal accident insurance there. How much is the cost of that insurance? 45 lakhs. You get how much coverage? 10 lakh rupee coverage for the duration of your journey. Correct? Okay. Look at the value, huge value of 10 lakh rupees. Look at the pay you have to, paisa you have to give 45 paisa in there. And what is the average ticket cost today? 800 rupees plus. So 800 रुपए का टिकट अफोर्ड कर सकता है, वो 45 पैसा तो अफोर्ड कर ही सकता है, और आपको कुछ नहीं करना है वहाँ पे, सिर्फ एक टिक मार्क लगाना है। उसके बाद भी उस प्लेटफॉर्म के ऊपर इंश्योरेंस का टेकअप जो है वो क्या है आज की डेट में? We know that not that more than 30% people buy it. The fundamental question to ask is why? आपने टेक्नोलॉजी लगा के सॉल्व कर दिया ना प्रॉब्लम IRCTC पे, आपका अवेलेबिलिटी भी यस है, आपका अफोर्डेबिलिटी भी यस है, लेकिन आपका फिर भी प्रोडक्ट नहीं बिक रहा है, ऐसा क्यों? Ask that question, because the problem is nobody believes that even if I buy it, I will get the benefit. And why is that the case?
Trust.
Not trust, because the journey is broken.
Journey is broken.
क्योंकि आप जब वो प्रोडक्ट खरीद लेते हो, उसके बाद आपके पास एक SMS आता है, वो बोलता है कि आपको इसमें जाके अपना डिटेल भरना है और वहाँ नॉमिनी के डिटेल्स भरने हैं, टेलीफोन नंबर, ईमेल आईडी, वो सब देना है। वो किसी को याद नहीं रहता है, किसी को पता नहीं रहता है वो क्या करना है। This is a fundamental problem that could have been solved by technology, that you don't need to do this thing. If they would have solved that, it would work. Why is it that insurance companies are not thinking about it? Why? Because it is driven by sales. मेरा तो 45 पैसा मिल गया मुझे, अब मुझे क्या करना है, क्लेम का छोड़ दो। But what is happening? It is degrading the value of insurance because nobody wants to buy it.
So now that brings me to my next question, because you started the statement when I spoke about IR and AA. You said about you visited various insurers and the problem is standardization of processes, simplicity of processes he mentioned, and you ended by saying that sales is talking in a separate journey, claims is on a separate journey. So coming to that, and as you rightly said, digital according to me is not a separate line of activity.
Yes.
Digital is an ingrained thing. It's not digital enablement. It's digital ingrainment in my words. Okay. So अगर digital ingrainment करना है तो you cannot say this digital is ये switch electricity सिर्फ fan चालू करेगा सिर्फ light चालू करेगा. Okay. You have a main one. You can switch on everything together. You can switch off whichever you don't want to make it faster. So similarly, everything could have been mapped. So probably it's the journey could have been ingrained into the IRCTC system, saying that वहीं पे नॉमिनी के नाम ऐड कर दो, फिनिश हो जाता है स्टोरी आपका.
But interestingly, IRCTC is a digital journey. That's the beauty of that.
तो उसी में ऐड करने कोई बड़ी बात नहीं थी. You want to say that, right?
So you could have, but how? This is
So
the question.
it's the same thing which I see in the life insurance sector or even the banking sector. We talk about Insta accounts, Insta insurance तो छोड़ दो. Insta accounts and this banking, that banking, tab banking. Does it really happen in a digital way? Digital insurance, we all know it's assist model hai wo. We clearly say it's an online assist model, and though everything is digital today, 100% of the journey is digital, but insurance is not, issuance is not digital really. So this is where probably we are trying to move towards, and this book is talking on those lines. Where can we fill this gap and move towards that journey? So for example, अगर हम KYC कहते हैं, we want a document, we want to attest it, we want to verify it through RCU, किसी को भेजना है हमको. बैंक में if it's a except some journeys, बाकी सब में if it's a company, God save you. You send a digital document, they will take a printout and ask you हर पेज पे rubber stamp मारो, and the signature should be in blue color. उसमें stamp जो होगा उसमें director लिखा होना चाहिए और तेरा signature और वापस दूसरा stamp, दूसरा paper, and then everything has to be signed. And what will they do? Again go back, scan it, put it in the content manager, उनका जो repository है. So हम digital को paper करते हैं, paper को digital करते हैं. So we are actually disabling, enabling, and it is not digital according to me. And this is not digital also. This is fidgeting with digital. That's my words for this. So, as you rightly said, and now there are repositories there. For example, you are already working with mutual funds, you are working with the demat accounts, KYCs, etc. Why can't this journey be simpler? And the same journey can be used for PSN claims. बार-बार हम उसके लिए हर एक चीज में क्यों मांग रहे हैं?
You have to have a fundamental rethink of the customer journey. One. And the second thing which is there, आपने जो example दिया अभी कि मैं I go and buy a product and then what happens. Because the problem is that product needs to be rethink in the way you're selling it. The moment you rethink that product, actually it will happen in a very seamless manner. मैं एक example देता हूँ आपको. जब घरों में इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं थी तो घर का आर्किटेक्चर अलग होता था. जब एक बार इलेक्ट्रिसिटी आ गई तो घर का आर्किटेक्चर बदल गया. right? When you had no water and sewage systems, right? You didn't have, the sanitary system in the house. The structure of the house used to be very different. But today the design of the house is very different, correct? Bathrooms and toilets were not attached. They were outside of the house, correct? But
it is said jokingly, हमारे जमाने में खाना घर पे बनता था और शौच बाहर हुआ करता था, अब शौच घर पे खाना बाहर है.
And fundamental technology has changed that for us, correct? Now I'll give you another example of this, and that is why I think you're right that हमने कुछ steps to digitize कर दिए, but that is an overlay of digitization on the current set of processes. And they were also to be done. It is not a wrong thing because they were low-hanging fruits. You could take the advantage of efficiency. You have taken that. But if you now want to take the next journey of really taking advantage of the huge opportunity that is sitting, then you have to now start getting the bigger and bolder step of redefining products and services. If you don't do that, you will have a struggle on this. And banking and insurance का एक बहुत बड़ा difference जो है. Banking as a nature by business is an open business where it interacts a lot with an external environment. It has systems in place which allows them to interact, right? Because payments, transactions, you're all the time interacting with a counterparty outside of your system.
Correct.
Insurance is a business where we are very insular. हमारे सब के सब systems जो है वो monolithic systems है, वो self-contained systems है. Insurance companies are not required. In fact, the way they think about it, they are not required to interact with the external world.
See, आप देखो ना, एग्जांपल अगर देना हो तो इंश्योरेंस तिजोरी है और जो बैंक है वो गल्ला है, करेक्ट? तो गल्ले से आता जाता रहता है, लेकिन तिजोरी में गया वो तिजोरी में गया, राइट? और ग्रू गया वहाँ पे. So this is how we have to think about that, and they're very different requirements.
Okay, over there I have a slight difference of opinion. That is where probably insurance industry, specifically life insurance industry now, because I have also been on the other side. To be fair to the life insurance sector, unlike the general insurance sector, difficulty is much more because of the requirement of the process, the amounts involved, etc. For example, the dependency of a life insurance company on the financial underwriting and medical underwriting is very high. Medical underwriting is a diagnostic world outside the system. Reports आनी है वहाँ से, nothing can be done here, it has to be processed outside. Financial underwriting is dealing with all the other ecosystem where the financial journeys are happening, and it has to come back in. So these two are the biggest roadblocks in an STP process, you can say, STP of a insurance thing. So that is where probably I thought when IA and IRs, AA and IRs came, it should solve. But कहीं पे ये नहीं हो पाया.
Correct.
And that is my question to you. How do you think can we really simplify the financial underwriting and the medical underwriting journeys?
See, if the question is that what is it that IR and AA are providing? AA is providing you a technology to get the information, okay? And it is readily available. You can get that information and plug that into your financial underwriting world. AA will never come and solve your financial underwriting, but they will bring you the data. It is possible today to get you the data in a very simplified manner in there. उसके भी customer journey के challenges हैं, लेकिन technology काम करती है, आप वो data ला सकते हैं और आराम से लाके कर सकते हैं. Question one has to ask is if that pipe is available, why is it that insurers are not using that pipe? Number one. Number two is that actually the way AA is bringing the data today, it is not bringing incremental data to insurers. Insurers के पास वो data पहले से available था जो आज उनको AA से मिल रहा है. For example, they were very easily able to ask for the bank account statements. वो पहले उनको physical में मिलता था तो उनको पढ़ना पड़ता था, but information was available. Today you can get the same thing from a digital format. It comes into you and you are actually able to plug that in. So the information was also available earlier. It is now available also, and they can do that. So from an AA perspective, is this technology available to do this? Yes, it is available to do this. I'll ask you a slightly different question and a difficult question, which is something which insurers are not doing, which they can also do. मैं आपको एक सवाल पूछता हूँ. Unit link के अंदर 5 लाख तक का limit है.
We have to change now. The interviewer is changed. So I am responsible for the answers now.
Yes, I think and we'll have an interesting discussion on it. So there was a limit introduced about 4-5 years back when they said that unit link 2.5 lakh rupees you can buy. Beyond that, it will be taxed. Correct? If you go ahead and buy 5 lakhs and above, it will be taxed. Correct? Therefore, every insurer which is issuing these policies makes a responsibility to check whether this guy is crossing that 2.5 limit or whether he's crossing a 5 lakh limit. How will the insurer find out?
From his own systems, it's easier.
उसकी सिस्टम में नहीं है ना, वो तो एग्रीगेट पे है.
IIB से मिल रहा है.
IIB से भी इंफॉर्मेशन पूरा नहीं मिल रहा है क्योंकि वो डेटेड भी है और वो कंप्लीट नहीं है. लेकिन आपको AA दे सकता है इंफॉर्मेशन, ऑटोमेटिकली दे सकता है.
AA may not be able to give you all insurance information. Sir.
Right now 17 have already come on the AA platform. A few more will come.
He doesn't have a database. He's just procuring it.
करेक्ट. तो इंश्योरेंस से पिंक करके आपको देना ही तो है सिर्फ वैल्यू, वो तो दे सकता है आप भी. लेकिन किसी इंश्योरर ने ये रिक्वायरमेंट ही नहीं मांगा है, वो देने के लिए भी तैयार नहीं है. बिकॉज इफ
according to me IIB is already there. They should be milking IIB.
IIB का एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है. उसके दो बड़े चैलेंजेस हैं एक्चुअली, एक नहीं है. First of all, it is not even a customer-facing organization, and the data that they are dealing with is customers' data, and the customer has to have the right of saying what he will share and what he will not share. Which is why AA is a far better solution because it comes with consent. Correct? आप aggregate करके data पे बैठे हो, लेकिन वो customer के consent से use नहीं होगा. That is one big problem.
The customer consent is indirectly. That's similar to the credit bureaus of banks. Like credit bureau, the customer doesn't share the data with the bureaus.
There is a regulation which supports it. IIB doesn't support it by regulation. Which is not.
IID को जो application form आता है, application form में consent दे रहा है. That we will share it करके.
In fact,
anyway, that's a compliance part of it.
Just keeping it off the record, if I was to tell you, actually they are now going to go ahead and privatize and corporatize IIB. I have a bigger worry because now my data is going to be privatized and make money out of people where I have not given them consent for this.
Yes.
And in DPDP they are going to be pulled.
Yes.
Whereas in case of IR there is an explicit consent.
What about ransomware, which is already happening?
उसका भी कोई
That's a
answer
separate
नहीं.
issue. I agree.
हम नहीं जानते. अब वापस आते हैं अपने क्वेश्चन. तो A has got the technology. What is stopping the insurer to use it? They have the technology. You can get the data even today. 17 insurers, including LIC, has already come on AA there. This data is available. Already banks are available in there. In CAMS itself, we are now doing more than 1 lakh of pulls every day. Okay, every day. Not just from insurance, but overall, we are now probably crossed. And 1 lakh is my data of March. I think we have already crossed that number way beyond because we are now hitting more than 1 lakh pulls in March itself. Every day was happening in there. And people were, by the way, using this for validating bank accounts. They were using this for doing KYC also. So this was already happening in AA. And again, mutual fund industry has been actually far more aggressive user of it because वहाँ पर वो FNO segment के लिए, trading segment के लिए, सब जगह पे वो already AA use कर रहे हैं. In fact, now bank validation without penny drop is actually the best use case on account aggregator, which is being done. But insurance companies have still not moved on to it. They are still trying to figure out what it is. So that's part one, which is there. There is a part two which is there, which is saying IRs. Now I said IRs made a mistake that they did not move ahead on this. Now IRs are getting geared up. They are making this thing. But insurance companies have still this nature of being insular. I want everything to be controlled at my end. This is something which is very important to understand. Unless we start facilitating the ecosystem, efficiencies will not come to you. In banking industry, their payment systems, clearing houses, all of those things are commonly created utilities which work across, which brings down the cost for banks to be able to do that. It's a far more collaborative system that exists. In insurance, we have not yet been able to go ahead and do that. Beginning has started, and IIB in that sense is a good beginning for us to be able to do that. I think the moment we are actually, and we are one of the guys who are actually pushing for that collaboration because the benefit directly flows to the insurer. एक ही एग्जांपल आप देख लीजिए, अगर यही चीज आपके पास एग्रीगेटेड में अगर आपका अकाउंट बना हुआ है EIA के अंदर, आप ऑनबोर्डिंग में कस्टमर कंसेंट से वो डेटा ले सकते हैं ना, आपको कुछ करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. अगर कस्टमर को नई पॉलिसी खरीदनी है तो आप उससे वो ले सकते हैं. आप कस्टमर को बोलिए आप अपने EIA अकाउंट का स्टेटमेंट दे दीजिए मुझे, उनके पास एनुअल स्टेटमेंट अवेलेबल है, एवरी मंथ एक स्टेटमेंट अवेलेबल है, आपके पास सारा का सारा होल्डिंग वहां आ जाएगा, एग्रीगेटेड आ जाएगा. आप ये पूल भी कर सकते हैं डेटा, राइट. उसके लिए स्टेप वन क्या है, आपको वो पूल बनाना पड़ेगा वेयर द कंट्रीब्यूशन फ्रॉम एवरी इंश्योरेंस कंपनी हैज टू गो एंड सिट देयर. नाउ दैट इज वेयर द रेजिस्टेंस इज. व्हाट डू आई गेट आउट ऑफ इट? Yeah, if nobody is going to fill the pool, then nobody can draw water out of it also. Even in case of IIB, what happened? Even after so much of fighting, all insurance companies are not contributing full data and they are not contributing timely data in this. Even till today, they are not giving full data and not timely data in there, which is why the reliability of that data is very poor. Particularly in life insurance. In motor claims, it has become far better because motor claims they have moved much better in this case. So I think the technology is not the problem.
See, and if you see here, why there is a positive reluctance, to this.
Positive reluctance.
Yes. People are positively saying that I don't want to do it. You know why? Because it creates a huge friction in their sales space. समझिए ना आप, see how it's, if someone, the person who is taking decisions on technology is not the same guy, you know, who is taking the decision on the business, you know. So it is ideally it should be an independent decision which should have been done because it's part of the digital infrastructure which the company anyway has to do. The trouble is that change causes friction in the business side. That is why this never gets done. You know, कौन देगा information? क्या कस्टमर से कितना डेटा भरवाओगे आप? And weirdly, it actually got struck down in the name of customer experience. अरे customer experience खराब हो जाएगा. मेरा customer कितने form भरेगा होता है? And they are right, you know, definitely they are right. However, the solution is not that. But since it's a broken system, they don't really know what is happening where and how to actually affect the chain, because and at the end of the day the buck stops with the sales, right? अगर distribution नहीं हुआ मेरा, वहाँ पे friction create हो रहा है, I'm not paying it up. As simple as that, right? So it's a very simple decision making.
So and do you see anything for medical also?
I'm actually very positive about it. Again, I give an influence of international markets. See, why am I saying this? Whether you look at banking, we have been the country which have been far ahead in adopting technology. Whether it is trading in the capital markets, we were the first country to get dematerialization done. We were way ahead of the market. NSE as a stock exchange on an electronic format created by government is an example where we were actually adopting technology way before the world thought about it. Correct? And it was only till 4-5 years back they were still doing the well and shouting and doing. It is only now NYSEs and everybody has moved to electronic systems, right? India moved to electronic system in 1992, right? NSE was established in 1990, and we have completely digitized the whole process. And we knew why we did was, it was not because we wanted to implement digital technology. It was because the government was very clear: unless I do this, I do not get real-time control and surveillance on the system, which was creating scams, frauds, and all of those things, right? NSE got created because of Ashit Mehta scam. Everybody knows that, right? Why that? And it was supposed to be the main platform for debt trading. You know, stock trading came in later. Because, you know, that's a you know, because debt trading did not take off and they had to run a business. They said आप stock trading भी करिए and BSE को challenge भी करना था. It was very clear, you know, that is why this got created. But the point is, we were always very, you know, and banking industry for us has been way ahead. UPI is an example that you only give. We have always been ahead of this game. I have, like I said, I have worked in Europe. I have worked in the Asian markets, barring probably Korea, where I can say that the technology adoption is equal or better than us. But every other market is behind us in terms of where we are using technology. And in case of insurance also, when I go and compare, I'm talking life insurance, when I go and compare international markets versus us, we are again stepping ahead of the international. If the industry realizes that they can create a new business model out of it, which can actually take them to the global markets in a far more efficient manner, they will actually be able to build a sustainable advantage out of it. Number one. And even in case of non-life, actually, for that matter, non-life, the international markets are ahead of us because the number of risks they underwrite are far more than the risks that we are able to underwrite, simply because they have got more data to do actual analysis of that data. We start creating that whole system on our side, we will also be able to underwrite those risks in doing that. The delivery of those, which is the productization of that, is going to be different in there. But it is possible to do that, and that is why I am very hopeful. Actually, all of this dismay and the way the state of the affair is, it tells me we are actually asking the right questions and solving the right things. Not only even in this case, even distribution, we are asking the right questions and solving the right things.
You're right. Now see, when we talk about India, more than 60% of India's officially supposed to be agricultural revenues, and agricultural data is not available. Income tax returns are not available. Okay, PAN card नहीं होता है, Form 60 is acceptable. So, and this is a major chunk. And when this chunk comes into insurance journey, okay, the difference between a loan journey and insurance journey, to be fair to the insurers, I would say, is loan is a need of the customer. And insurance in India, as of today, they don't believe it's a need.
That's a fundamental problem that the industry has to solve.
Yeah, not just industry. I think it's also the economical environment, political environment. बहुत कुछ है. It's a bigger.
Which is where our fundamental question is. Please
Exactly.
go and understand the customer's risk mitigation journey.
Correct.
He will agree with you. Today, the customer in the risk mitigation journey believes that a Nimbu Mirchi is more protection than buying insurance.
So,
See, he understands risk management, but he is not understanding the right tools.
So basically,
See, for us, we had interns, who were not from the insurance side.
yeah.
So the
This is my risk mitigation mechanism. Everything is fine.
I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah.
आपको अपना information मिल गया है या अभी आपको questions
और दिन 3-4 है.
तो I think हम उसको
Yeah.
करेंगे because ये discussion तो हम
I know. I think you have made a point. You have done your marketing correctly also.
in there. No, but it's a
I'm saying the right way. So let's restart. As I said, agriculture is one part which I would like you to cover. Okay, and then smaller things would be like how do we go completely paperless in the complex? I think which you have already spoken, so we don't have to repeat this piece. HNI clients ka hai, we can maybe talk only about HNI part, agricultural part, and I think we already spoken about the IR ka role, so we don't have to speak. And I will have to talk about the frauds part.
perfect.
So let's continue the journey from one.
Agriculture.
Yeah. So we'll restart from the agricultural part. Like agricultural journey, how do we capture the agricultural revenues and how an IR or an AA, whoever it is, or jointly, how can we solve this problem?
I will fundamentally ask the question that does the product created for other segment fit that particular segment also, or is there a need to create a new product? And I'll give you an example again which will make you understand this very simply. In banking industry we have something called as an NBFC. Why do we have an NBFC? Because we know that the standardized credit processes that a bank is supposed to follow, where their requirements on risk taking is very different, those kind of risk taking, those kind of credit requirements cannot be fulfilled by a large set of population. Therefore, if you want to operate out of the banking system but yet want to cover the credit requirements of the large population, you can go ahead and do this through an NBFC. So what happens there? NBFC therefore does not rely on the formal credit evaluation process, it relies on the proxy credit evaluation process. They create products which are very different from what the bank does. Okay? And they go ahead and do the formalization of the guy who comes into credit. Today, why is Bajaj Finance the number one guy? Because they did not follow the formal credit. They are an NBFC. They never followed the formal this thing. But
Fortunately, insurance को restriction नहीं है, and insurance can create that product, and they are trying.
no, the question is not that. So what did they do? They did not try to bring the guy who does not have a cash flow statement and a balance sheet and a P&L into the same system of balance sheet, cash flow and P&L. What they did was they fundamentally created a new credit evaluation system where I can go and see that उसके पास में अगर उसके घर के अंदर अगर पंप लगा हुआ है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का, अगर उसके पास एक मोटर बाइक है वहां पर, अगर उसके घर का खर्चा इलेक्ट्रिसिटी और एजुकेशन के ऊपर इतना है, तो मैं उसके हिसाब से उसकी इनकम का एस्टिमेट करके उसको लोन दे सकता हूँ, अनसिक्योर्ड लोन दे दूंगा मैं उसको. उन्होंने ये सिस्टम इजाद किया. हाउ डिड बजाज फाइनेंस बिकम बजाज फाइनेंस? बिकॉज दे सेड आई विल गो एंड लेंड टू प्रोफेशनल्स हु डोंट हैव बैलेंस शीट बट आई कैन गो अहेड एंड गिव देम अ क्रेडिट इवैल्यूएशन. सो व्हाट डिड दे डू? दे फंडामेंटली क्रिएटेड अ डिफरेंट क्रेडिट इवैल्यूएशन सिस्टम. So when I was building, and I've done enough work on this because I created a peer-to-peer lending platform. In peer-to-peer lending platform, when we were doing this, the biggest question was you have to create a fundamentally different credit evaluation system. So we built a credit evaluation system, which is something which sits between a microfinance company and an NBFC to evaluate factors which can tell you whether this guy is credit worthy or not. अगर मैं बैंक का क्रेडिट इवैल्यूएशन सिस्टम लगाऊं उसमें, तो मैं जिंदगी में एक लोन नहीं दे सकता कभी भी. लेकिन वो हमें बनाना पड़ा और हमने वो बनाया, तो then it can work in there.
I think to be fair, since I have been a chief underwriter myself, okay, every insurance company has that process. जहाँ पे हम 7/12 उतारा, सीड्स के डॉक्यूमेंट्स, बिल्स भी केसेस पे we have done the reverse working and done it. So it's not that it is not there, and the underwriters also understand कि we will not ask for a balance sheet or a IT है ही नहीं. But the question is now, how can we get a digital documentation or a digital information of this? For example,
Which is also well
one of the problems, biggest problems I see in India is the non-life and the life are not talking to each other.
Which is by design, because we have two different licenses.
I know, that's a problem according to me in the digital world. Digital world doesn't understand 0-1 है, digital is only 0-1. It doesn't understand और कोई बीच में है तो नहीं है. So what happens is, there is a crop insurance which is significantly picking up, and there I know of some companies which is profitable in a year or two. Where हमारा life insurance 7-8 साल तो लग जाता है profitable होते होते. So why are we not able to connect those two, or the information somewhere, the information which is going from crop to the crop insurer, if the same thing can be passed on, underwriting can be created. वो बड़ी बात नहीं, it's a manual, it's a question of intelligence.
But I'll ask this question since you already understand this underwriting part in there. Two things which are there. Okay, most life insurance companies, if you look at the cash flow of a farmer, his cash flow of the farmer happens either twice in a year,
Seasonal.
right? So if you look at half yearly mode in the insurance companies, particularly life insurance, if it works, it only works for a farmer. It does not work for anybody else because किसी और का है नहीं ऐसा cycle, सिर्फ उन्हीं का है. But 9 out of 10 insurance companies do not allow you to take half yearly policies, even though they list it there. We know the reality. Second part I will tell you is that there is a group insurance platform available, but insurance companies don't utilize that because they only want to sell that regular premium product, which doesn't fit the farmer's requirement, because he knows that there is uncertainty in signing up for 5-year, 10-year, 20-year. It's not a problem of underwriting; it is a problem of product design. It is not fixed there, and that is why you are having this challenge. If you fix the product design problem, you can go ahead and do it. Why does it work in case of non-life where they are doing this? It's a 1-year term that they do for every season. They can go ahead and do that. Next year you can opt out of it also, and the data is available. By the way, that data is also available to insurance companies if you want to go and take it, because it's not a private company. The data sits with Ministry of Agriculture, and there are enough and more companies which are now starting to use it for many more APIs.
Great.
The data is available, but the product design is not. And that is where insurance companies have to step in to create product designs. They are not. Why is it that we are insisting on only selling one type, which is regular premium products, are the only things we would sell? Why can't we go ahead and sell group insurance products to these guys? Because हमको उसी में पैसा बनेगा ना, हम उस पे बनेगा नहीं. तो हम फंडामेंटल कस्टमर की प्रॉब्लम इसलिए, बट उसमें भी बन सकता है अगर आप प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन ठीक से करें. वहाँ प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन करने के लिए तो एफर्ट लगेगा आपको, नया आपको इवैल्यूएशन सिस्टम बनाना पड़ेगा, वो करने के लिए तो एफर्ट लगेगा. So I'm just, I'm sorry, I'm being very blunt because I'm also a certified underwriter. Having my underwriting license from America, I understand how underwriting happens. And fortunately for me, I've seen all 3 types of risk, whether it is credit risk because I was a credit analyst and an underwriter, and investment risk. So I understand risk to that extent.
Great.
But the problem is product design here, which is not evolving. In the last 40 years, which is a new product in the insurance industry, which has come? Zero. The last innovation was unit-linked insurance in life insurance. After that, there is none. And even if you want to do universal life, or you want to do variable annuities, those kind of products, they will not cater to the requirement that you want to. It is actually going to cater to the HNI segments where you have large amount of cash flows available. You can deal with the volatility of returns in there. जहाँ आपको protection देना है, वहाँ पर आपको नए designs create करने पड़ेंगे.
That takes me to the next question of HNIs. HNI is high premium. And high premium is high complexity in underwriting process and the overall documentation process. So how do you think, and life insurance unfortunately, unlike health or motor, is slightly more complex, to be fair, because of the amounts involved in it, the payouts and all. So how do you think we can digitally simplify the HNI journey? Any thoughts on this?
I don't see any fundamental difference in that.
Documentation आ जाता है, because one is the medicals के आ जाता है, complexity of the medicals is there, you cannot say non-medical, and financials obviously you need more of it to justify. So the reinsurers also come into play over there, so nothing is going to be weighed off unless there is a proper thought process. कि HNI में ऐसा नहीं है कि 1 crore cover cannot go through STP, but there is a requirement which doesn't get met, and probably there is a flagging which is needed.
You again may not like my answer, but I'll give you the answer in there.
I'm absolutely neutral.
No, I'll tell you
I'm
why.
open.
I'll also tell you why. When you are going and selling to an HNI, he is putting I would say acceptable demands on you is because it's a forced sale. If it was a sale which was meeting his requirement, he will bend backwards to give you all the things that is required. Very simple, right? Okay. Because you are going and trying to sell him a 10 crore, 15 crore, 20 crore cover, which he practically may, from the current analysis, not require. But you want to sell him because of his investment requirements or tax requirements in there. Which is why he makes a fuss about saying कि मैं क्यों underwriting, क्यों medical करा रहे हो, ये करा रहे हो, वो करा रहे हो. Medical is a requirement of the product. It's a feature of the product. It is not a bug of the product. So you have to. If you are going to say I will buy a car but I will not get it serviced, it's your problem, right? In there. So automatically होने वाला है वो. लेकिन अगर उसको जरूरत है तो वो करेगा, जरूरत है तो नहीं करेगा, नहीं है जरूरत तो नहीं करेगा. Fundamentally point number. So I don't see that there is any difference in the HNI processing. In fact, HNI should be far more digital because उनका सारा data mostly digitally available. उनके पास तो सब कुछ digitally available है. And if he is a slightly more aware guy, उसका health data भी available होगा. You can easily get that also from him. If we want to procure that data with his permission, it will be available to us. So it is easier to HNI, to digitize that particular process. There is no different process.
HNI को ना आप product नहीं बेचते, आप उसको service बेचते हो.
True.
See, that's a different product itself.
Yeah.
So it's not really a problem there, right? And the solutions that you need to figure out, they are completely different from versus someone, an individual guy where you're selling a retail policy, right? So I think ये दोनों it's apples and oranges. आप उसको ऐसा मान के चलो, क्योंकि वहाँ पे अगर आप बोलो ना वो नखरा कर रहा है, उसने पैसे दिए नखरा करने के, करेक्ट? तो करेगा, तो आपको प्रोडक्ट है, आपको देना पड़ेगा वो, करेक्ट? लेकिन आप उसको अगर प्रॉब्लम मान के चल रहे हो, तो उसके लिए ये सॉल्व करने वाले 20 लोग खड़े हैं. सो आप तो ऐसी कंपटीशन से, वो ये प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है. ये तो फीचर है आपका.
नहीं, प्रॉब्लम 20 सारे 20 का सेम प्रॉब्लम है. हाउ डू वी गेट द डॉक्यूमेंटेशन? ही इज नॉट विलिंग टू गिव हिज consent for account aggregator. There are challenges which are genuinely there. So he is saying my chartered accountant will talk to you, I'll give you.
वो आपसे सर्विस किस बात की ले रहा है कि मुझे इंश्योरेंस चाहिए, लेकिन मुझे ये नहीं करना है. अगर ये करना होता तो मैं तो ले लेता. मेरे पास 20 लोग बैठे हैं जो वेबसाइट से जाके 20 एजेंटों से जाके प्रोडक्ट ले आते हैं. आपसे क्यों सर्विस ले रहा है वो? See, the product is you are selling a service. It's a fully serviced, full suite of service. आप concierge का काम कर रहे हो उसके लिए, तो आपको उस सर्विस के लिए डिजाइन करना पड़ेगा. आप वो प्रोडक्ट की प्रॉब्लम वहाँ पे नहीं लगा सकते, है ना? So
I think there's a practical difficulty because the reinsurers will also come into play. So it's not easy to say that because you will say I will not fill the tick box. So it's challenge रहेगा.
उसका भी वही तो है, वो प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन की प्रॉब्लम है ना. So आप वही प्रोडक्ट उसको भी बेच रहे हो ना, तो उसका प्रोडक्ट भी अलग होगा ना.
मैं आपको कंसेप्ट
प्रोडक्ट भी दे दो.
नहीं, मैं आपको कंसेप्ट बता. You go to Luxembourg, or you go to Switzerland, or you can go to Netherlands, Ireland, Finland, any of those places. The moment you are looking to buy a larger set of insurance, you will have enough and more brokers offering you the trust facility. Because when you are buying a 5 million plus US, insurance, they understand that this is not being bought because of life risk. This is being bought because of estate planning.
Correct.
And estate planning is far more efficient if it is done through the trust mode. So why does CCAVs and exist? Because they take your entire assets, they put it under the wrapper, create a trust of it, and on that top of it they put a insurance cover so that it becomes an efficient product. You go ahead and do that. That's a fundamental different product design that has been created for HNIs who are crossing that 1 million, 5 million route. Once you go into that route, the HNI is actually willing to give his last document to you because he now knows that he's not talking about life insurance. So
it goes in a complete different direction.
Because that is what his requirement is. He is buying that. So I have sold enough in insurance where the reason of buying insurance was very simple. So I went and here in Mumbai I closed a deal which was close to about in total 15 crores. Right? The father said I have got 2 sons. My one son, the younger son, is capable of running my business, which is worth 15 crores. But I have to make sure that my elder son also gets something when I'm not there. I've created some assets for him which I will pass on. But when I will die, these 2 guys will separate. And I don't want them to fight because if they fight, then my business band ho jayega. What I want to do is I want to create enough wealth, insurance ke through, I want to create enough wealth so that I'm not there. This 15 crore comes to him. Okay? So the 2 brothers can easily get separated. So don't try and explain me the benefits. Tell me how can you make this happen. So we sat down and created a structure for him by saying ये हो जाएगा तो इस तरह से करना पड़ेगा. Today you are only 48 years old. In fact 50 years old. And you are looking at a next 10-year period. This is how it has to be structured. We will make sure that this happens. This is what will be done. इसके लिए जो आपको अटेंडेंट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन करना है उसमें मेडिकल भी आएगा, ये भी आएगा, वो करना पड़ेगा. ये चला मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, वो सब मैं कर दूंगा, लेकिन उनको सोल्यूशन ये चाहिए. So look at it. What is his purpose of buying that whole thing? His purpose is not insurance. His purpose is wealth estate management and planning. For that, he is willing to do what he needs to do in there. He is willing to write his will also in that case and do this because he wants that solution.
And see, it's a very common misunderstanding. कि हम ना जैसे मैं एक example और देता हूँ. There was one bank trying to solve a problem of signatures. मेरे पास ये 100 पेज का डॉक्यूमेंट है, उस पर अब लोन जो ले रहा है उसको हर पेज पे साइन करना है. उसके लिए यार इसको डिजिटल कर दो. right? My point was, see, have you understood the journey of the customer? The moment you go into the journey, आप उसको 100 के आप उसे 1000 साइन ले लो, क्योंकि उसको 1 करोड़ का लोन देना है अपने फ्लैट खरीदने के लिए, right? Now the moment you understand that that problem is not really a problem, the problem was lying somewhere else, which was causing वो digital नहीं होने दे रहा था, which was I don't want to get
fair.
But the point is कि so you are asking the wrong question, right? So you're getting a wrong answer and the result is wrong, right? So that's the point. You have to pick and figure out the word customer क्या चाहता है, अभी उसकी जिंदगी चाहिए कैसे रही है.
I went and tried to sell a 1 crore premium policy to a doctor in Pune, okay? And every time I would go to him, he would show all his willingness in buying that policy, but finally he would put some condition कि इसमें तो commission ये है, इसमें तो ये है, वो and this. And I realized after almost 6 months that he never wants to buy this, but he cannot say no to me. So what is he doing? He's inventing reasons for me to be able to go back. Okay. 1 year went by. After 6 months, I understood. So I used to say hi, hello to him, but I never went and any time approached, for any of this. A year and a half later, his chartered accountant told him that you need to invest in this because it is required for you to do that. For some other reason, he wanted to. He called me from himself. The same product which I was explaining to him a year and a half back. He said, "Abhi batao ye karna hai." I said, "Sir, he said, नहीं मेरे chartered accountant ने बोला कि हाँ ये करना पड़ेगा." And within a 7-day period, everything was done. The premium was 1.1 crore premium I took from him, 11 crores of sum assured. It was done in one go, in a minute's time.
Now it is his need.
This is this thing, right?
So let's close it with the last question. How do you see our insurance sector and your role as an IR the next, let's say, 5 years or 4 years, 27, 28, 30 tak?
Oh, like I said, we are right now super excited about it for the simple reason that I think the industry is asking the right questions. They know that their fundamental structure that they have created, the business model, is being questioned everywhere. They have to reinvent themselves. In that reinvention, they are going to need a lot of help from small players like us who want to go ahead and say, आपके portions की problem हम solve कर सकते हैं. हम उनकी क्या problem solve कर सकते हैं? हम उनकी एक ही प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर सकते हैं, वो ये है कि आपको जो कस्टमर सर्विसिंग, कस्टमर एक्सपीरियंस, बेनिफिट रियलाइजेशन की जर्नी जो है उनको हम मैनेज करके दे सकते हैं. इन द मीन टाइम यू कैन रीइन्वेंट. द इंडस्ट्री फॉर्चुनेटली हैज रियलाइज्ड दैट दे हैव टू रीथिंक देमसेल्व्स. दे आर डूइंग दैट. New products are going to come up for sure. Somebody is going to really start thinking about new product designs. They will come up in there. Technology is now ripe enough to actually deliver them. They are ripe enough. I can tell you 5 product designs which can work on technology right now, which are suitable for the customer. I'm not an insurer, so I can't write them. But they can, and they will very soon do it. You asked a question very simply right now, saying insurance industry में हम life insurance और non-life बात नहीं करता है. लेकिन अगर वो IR के अंदर उसका पॉलिसी और पोर्टफोलियो कंसोलिडेटेड है तो वो बात कर सकता है.
Exactly.
अभी हम इंश्योरर से जब बात करते हैं, आपको भी पता होगा, लास्ट 10-12 years many insurers have tried to sell life health combos, but they did not work. Why did they not work? Fundamentally because the moment it came to servicing and managing the entire subsequent claim journey, life insurers and health insurers are diametrically opposite. Life insurers only know one claim in one customer's life for once. Health insurers know that every year he will claim and I have to deal with that with him that way. Correct? एक बार मैंने underwrite कर दिया तो मैं उसको मना नहीं कर सकता बाद में because he will keep buying.
Absolutely.
These are two fundamentally different journeys. Both of them, and I was leading one of the projects when we were trying to do combo products. My conclusion was ये दोनों कभी बात नहीं कर सकते एक दूसरे के साथ because ये problem. But if you look at IR-like platforms, they solve that customer journey for you and allow you the freedom of doing product design because the enablement of product design can happen. So it's a new way of looking at it. The journey has just started. The good thing that I see in the last 2 years of our interaction itself, the way insurers have started changing their understanding of this and started asking fundamental questions on many of these things, it actually makes us very, very happy that yes, it's a long journey, but they are doing the right things now. They're starting to ask the right questions. कि हम ये ऐसा क्यों नहीं कर सकते? Then we tell them ये हो सकता है, लेकिन आपकी तरफ से ये चाहिए. ठीक है, ये एक स्टेप तो लेते हैं, ये एक स्टेप तो करते हैं, इसको आगे बढ़ाते हैं. Which is why we are seeing that this is possible. And IR is only one platform. There are many more. In fact, आपको तो पता ही है कि IRDA themselves is trying to create Bima Solutions as a platform. which I genuinely think if they are able to create this kind of a thing, it's truly a UPI moment, because that interface can really help everybody in the ecosystem. So whether it is IR, whether it is in Bima Sugam, the ingredients are being put in place. It's a journey which is going to take some time, but the industry is starting to ask the right questions. It's something which we have to be patient about. It is not banking where you can do transactions every day. It is insurance at the end of the day, which works on a longer term. So the pace is slow in that case.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vivek, and thank you, Aman.